Imagine you're just walking through an aquarium.
Right.
You're strolling past the glass tanks, and there's this comfortable expectation of immediate, simple recognition. Like you see a flash of bright orange, and your brain just automatically provides the label, goldfish.
Oh, yeah, it's totally automatic.
Exactly. You see a shimmering little silver school, and you think, Tetra. It's a comforting, almost frictionless experience. But then you turn a corner, and you look down at this incredibly heavy, armored creature clinging to the bottom.
Like a tank.
Literally like a tank, and it has these massive striking eyes, and you look for the little helpful plaque to tell you what you're looking at. But the label doesn't say anything remotely familiar. It just reads L27D.
Which means absolutely nothing to the average person.
Nothing. In that single moment, you haven't just found a fish. You've stumbled into one of the most fiercely guarded, highly classified, and, dizzyingly complex corners of the internet.
It is the absolute definition of a steep learning curve. The moment you move past the basics of standard aquarium pets, you realize that aquatic taxonomy is just a wild frontier.
It really is.
We rely on these broad, easy mental shortcuts when we look at the natural world. But the expert fish-keeping community, they actively shatter those shortcuts because the natural world is far more granular than we usually give it credit for.
Which brings us to our mission for today. Welcome to the deep dive, by the way. We're taking you with us to explore a highly specific, fascinating slice of niche internet culture. We've got our hands on a recently published blog post from July 9, 2026.
It's a really fascinating read.
Oh, completely. It's titled Notes on Fishkeeping, Part 285, by an author named Ang. Think about that for a second, Part 285.
That level of dedication alone tells you we are dealing with serious passion.
Right. And through this single post, we're going to unpack a detailed, close-up look at that peculiar aquatic creature we just mentioned, the Goldline Royal Pleco.
The famous L27D.
The one and only. We're going to explore how that single cryptic label can open up an entire world of specialized classification, striking anatomy, and ultimately the deeply subjective nature of what we actually find beautiful. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, starting right at the glass of the aquarium is the perfect entry point, because that's exactly where the author of our source material begins the journey. Ang is standing there, observing this creature, and it captures the fundamental disorientation of this hobby.
Yeah.
Because even for someone writing the 285th installment of a fish-keeping blog, making sense of what's in front of you can be a complete puzzle.
And Ang's immediate first thought upon seeing the fish was, that is a variety of catfish, which to someone outside the hobby might sound like a weird conclusion to jump to when looking at a heavily armored tank of a fish. But Ang is absolutely right to see that family resemblance, aren't they?
Oh yes, Ang's eyes were telling the truth. The underlying biological architecture is definitely there. Both the plecos, like our heavily armored friend, and your standard pond-dwelling catfish actually belong to the exact same biological order.
Which is
known as Siluriformes.
Okay, Siluriformes. But knowing it belongs to that order doesn't really explain the placard on the glass. Ang looks down, and instead of catfish or even Goldline Royal Pleco, the label just says L27D. I have to admit, when I first read that in the source material, my mind did not go to biology.
Where to go?
L27D sounds like a droid from Star Wars.
Oh, totally. R2-D2's aquatic cousin.
Exactly. Or maybe some kind of classified secret agent code. It just feels so mechanical and heavily technical. How does a naming convention this cryptic immediately signal to the reader that we're dealing with a fiercely niche, specialized hobby?
It immediately tells you that you've left the realm of casual observation and entered an arena of extreme specialization. The L number system is, well, it's actually a brilliant piece of grassroots scientific history.
Grassroots?
Yeah, because in the broader animal kingdom, we're used to common names, or if we want to be precise, Latin binomials. But decades ago, the aquarium trade in South America exploded.
Oh, I see.
Explorers and local fishermen were pulling entirely new, undocumented variations of these suckermouth catfish out of the Amazon and Xingu River basins, and they were doing it much faster than the slow, peer-reviewed world of scientific taxonomy could formally classify and name them.
So the scientific community simply could not keep up with the rate of discovery.
Precisely. You had all these unique fish entering the hobbyist market without official names. So in this massive workaround, An aquarium magazine in Germany just started assigning them alphanumeric codes.
Wow.
The L stands for Loricariidae, which
Yeah.
is the specific family these armored catfish belong to.
Okay, got it.
So when you see a label like L27D, it tells you instantly that this specific type of fish has so many slight genetic or geographical deviations that the hobbyists had to invent an entirely separate cataloged numbering system just to keep track of them all.
It strips away the romance of a name and replaces it with granular, exact data. It's like open source taxonomy. They essentially just started assigning them serial numbers because they ran out of adjectives.
Pretty much.
But it also sets up a fascinating mystery for us. We have this cryptic L27D label proving it's a highly specialized catfish. But if you look at its body, it looks absolutely nothing like the soft, whiskered catfish you might see in a local lake.
No, not at all.
To find that biological family resemblance, Ang notes that you actually have to look incredibly closely, right at the very front of its face.
You have to look at the sensory equipment?
Yes. Ang points out that, just like other standard catfish in that Siluriformes order, this specific pleco features something called barbels.
Right.
For you listening, Ang defines these barbels as slender, whisker-like sensory organs located right around the mouth. When I read that, I pictured them working like a built-in metal detector sweeping the ground. Or maybe how a cat uses its facial whiskers to navigate through a dark room without bumping into the furniture.
What's fascinating here is how those delicate barbels perfectly bridge the gap between typical catfish anatomy and the highly specific environment of this pleco.
How so?
Well, they're not just physical feelers. They are highly advanced chemical receptors. They're actually packed with taste buds and olfactory sensors.
Wait, hold on. That actually seems like a massive contradiction to me.
Contradiction?
Yeah, we know from the source, and we're going to get into the specific visual details in a second, that this fish is built like a heavy armored tank. It's physically tough. If the Goldline Royal Pleco is basically an aquatic bulldozer, why put incredibly delicate, slender sensory whiskers right on the front bumper?
That's a fair question.
Wouldn't they just get crushed or damaged immediately?
It's a brilliant biological compromise, and it comes down to how and where this creature survives. The L27D is a benthic creature,
Meaning what, exactly?
meaning it is a stripped bottom dweller. It exists at the very floor of river basins where vision is often entirely useless. The water is murky, like swirling with silt and sediment, and they are highly active in low light. So those heavy armored plates provide defense against the rough environment, but defense alone doesn't help you find food in the dark.
Oh, I see. The armor is the shield, but the barbels are the navigation system.
Exactly. The mouth of this fish is situated underneath its body, basically flush against the river floor, and the heavy armor starts before it reaches that underside.
Makes sense.
So it uses those slender, whisker-like barbels to perform incredibly delicate, precise work. Tasting the mud, feeling along the substrate, detecting microscopic organic matter, and mapping its immediate surroundings without needing to see it. It's a highly specialized tool paired with a heavily fortified body.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because from those delicate microscopic sensory organs tucked under the face, Ang pivots sharply in the blog post to the stark, contrasting visual bulk of the rest of the fish's body.
It's quite the contrast.
We go from slender, hidden whiskers to an incredibly jarring visual signature. I mean, you expect a bottom feeder to be muddy and just kind of blend into the riverbed, but this thing demands attention.
The aesthetics of the L27D are arguably what make it legendary in the hobby. It's a very dense collection of visual data that Ang breaks down for the reader.
Ang highlights three specific visual components that make this fish completely unmistakable. First, there's the bold pattern. The fish features light-colored stripes set against a dark-based body color. That's where the gold line part of the name comes from.
Right.
Second, it possesses what Ang calls the classic, heavy, armored look that is characteristic of the Panang species. And lastly, it features the royal trait, which Ang defines as having large and striking eyes. This is the absolute hallmark of the Royal Pleco lineage.
When you look at those three traits together, it reads less like a fish and more like an engineered machine.
It really does. For you trying to picture this at home, the combination is bizarre. Imagine a medieval knight.
Okay.
This knight is wearing incredibly heavy, bulky, imposing armor that represents the Panaki influence. But inexplicably, this knight decided to paint a sharp pinstripe suit over the top of the armor.
Right, those are the light gold line strips on the dark base.
Yes. And to top it all off, the knight is wearing massive striking goggles, which are those large royal eyes. It sounds almost like a comic book character.
It is a bizarre image, but it actually plays perfectly into explaining the biological mechanisms at work here. If we look closer at your knight in the pinstripe suit, every single one of those seemingly contradictory traits is an evolutionary masterclass.
How so?
That heavy panique armor isn't just for show. These fish evolved in fast-flowing, rocky river rapids. They don't have normal scales.
They don't.
No, they have scutes, which are thick, interlocking, bony plates. They need that heavy armor because they are constantly being battered by strong river currents and debris.
Okay, that makes sense. And the pinstripes, why wear a suit over the armor?
Because in those river basins, sunlight filters down through the canopy and hits the sunken logs and branches in the water, creating a dappled, striped effect of light and shadow. Yeah, the dark base with light stripes provides phenomenal camouflage if you're resting on a piece of sunken wood. And speaking of wood, the panic species is incredibly unique because they are xylophagous.
Wait, I don't know that word.
It means they actually eat wood. They use specialized spoon-shaped teeth to gouge the sunken logs they camouflage against.
They eat the wood. That just adds another layer to the industrial, mechanical vibe of this creature. A wood-chipping knight.
Exactly.
But what about the massive goggles? The striking royal eyes?
Yeah.
If they use the barbels to taste the mud in the dark, why do they need big eyes?
Because while the barbels handle the extreme close-up work of finding food under their mouths, those large eyes are adapted to capture as much ambient light as possible in those murky, low-light conditions.
To watch out for predators above.
Exactly. The royal trait gives them a specialized iris that allows them to modulate light incredibly well. So what the source text is doing here is layering these three distinct identifiers to paint a complete picture of survival.
It's all connected.
Yep. You have the panic armor for physical hardiness in rapids. You have the Goldline stripes for camouflage. And you have the royal eyes for low-light awareness. It isn't just a generic fish. It's a highly evolved, perfectly adapted iteration of the Siluriformes order.
It's wearing its genetic history right on its scutes. We now have this complete, vivid picture of an armored, wood-eating, whiskered, large-eyed creature navigating the bottom of an aquarium. But, this brings us to the human element of this entire blog post. Because Aang isn't just reciting a biology textbook here.
No, not at all.
This is a personal blog. We're looking at this through Aang's subjective lens.
Yes, the title is Notes on Fishkeeping. The personal, subjective experience of interacting with the hobby is the actual core of the text.
And this is where the dynamic of the post really shifts in a fascinating way. Aang acknowledges that the L27D is highly favored by a very specific, niche group of hobbyist fish keepers. People clearly spend a lot of time and money trying to acquire this exact alphanumeric code.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge deal for them.
But then, Aang explicitly states that they are not a fan of plecos in general. The exact phrase Aang uses is that these fish are not vibrant enough.
It is a striking juxtaposition, isn't it, to spend so much time analyzing something you fundamentally do not prefer.
Exactly. Aang spends this entire post detailing the incredible armor, the specialized chemical sensing whiskers, the striking eyes, and the bold gold lines, and then concludes the piece by saying, essentially, it's good to have a knowledge about this species, but I have absolutely no desire to ever keep one.
Right.
So what does this all mean? Why might some aquarists absolutely obsess over an armored, dark-colored, bottom-dwelling fish, while others, like our author, Aang, look at it and demand something entirely different, like vibrancy?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights a universal truth about how we curate our interests and the fundamentally subjective nature of human appreciation. Aang has drawn a perfectly articulated boundary here.
Mean what?
Well, think about the hobbyists who seek out the L27D. When they look at it, they don't see a lack of color. They see a marvel of evolutionary engineering. They appreciate the heavy panique armor, the wood-eating biology, and that cryptic L-number categorization because it appeals to a desire for complexity, rarity, and ruggedness.
It's an aesthetic of its own.
It's the exact same reason some people prefer the raw, exposed mechanics of a vintage motorcycle over a sleek, modern sports car.
Yeah.
They don't need the fish to be bright neon pink. The appeal is in the industrial structure.
They want the medieval knight. They want the Star Wars droid. They want the gewhead fish.
Exactly. They value form following function. But Aang represents a completely different aesthetic philosophy. For Aang, the purpose of curating an aquarium seems to be tied to visual pop, to color, to immediate aesthetic beauty, that vibrancy.
Right, which makes total sense too.
What is so brilliant about this short post is that Aang uses this fish to demonstrate a highly mature approach to learning. Ang shows us that it's entirely possible to appreciate and document the facts about a creature, to respect its complex biology, its barbels, its lineage, while simultaneously recognizing that it simply does not align with their personal taste.
That is such a healthy way to approach learning, especially in an era of information overload where we often feel pressured to either love or hate everything we encounter. Like, you have to pick a side.
Oh, you always have to be a super fan or a hater.
Exactly. But you can study the Star Wars droid, you can respect the mechanics of the metal detector whiskers, but you don't have to take it home and put it in your living room.
It emphasizes a really crucial point for anyone trying to become well-informed. Gaining knowledge doesn't always require ownership or fandom. You can be deeply informed about a subject without having to adopt it as your own personal identity. Remember, Ang is on part 285 of these notes. That represents a massive, enduring dedication to the pursuit of aquatic knowledge. Yet that dedication doesn't obligate Ang to love every single fish in the tank. You can respect the L27D without wanting to feed it wood in your own house.
It is so refreshing. It frees you up to just be wildly curious without feeling like you have to buy into the hype. You can just look through the glass, figure out how the machine works, and walk away satisfied.
Beautifully put.
We started this deep dive staring at a cryptic little alphanumeric label, L27D, on a piece of aquarium glass. And from that one label, we unpacked a massive biological and historical narrative. We uncovered a heavily armored, large-eyed, whisker-bearing member of the Siluriformes order that had to be named by hobbyists because science couldn't keep up.
That's my favorite part, honestly.
It's so good. We look at how delicate, taste bud-covered sensory barbels can exist on a tank-like body to help it navigate the dark, and we explored how this one highly specific, wood-eating fish fiercely divides the opinions of the aquarium community.
It really is a testament to how much mechanical evolutionary depth is hidden directly behind the mundane things we casually walk past every day.
And as we wrap up today's deep dive, we want to turn this concept back over to you listening right now. We want you to take Ang's philosophy and apply it to your own curiosities.
Think about the L27Ds in your own life. What is a piece of highly specialized, niche knowledge or a unique object that you find completely fascinating to learn about, but that you would absolutely never want to bring into your own home?
I love that. A little mental homework for the road.
Yeah.
The world is full of incredible things that are perfectly fine staying exactly where they are. Thank you so much for joining us as we unpack the muddy, armored, and entirely fascinating waters of the Goldline Royal Pleco.
It has been a pleasure. Until next time, keep observing the details.
The glass between you and the unexpected is thinner than you think. Catch you on the next deep dive.